All right, everybody, we're back here. We're going to do our first LOD mock draft. A little bit about this. I did have the architect over in the LOC pick for Philly Miracle Men, and I did have No More pick for Knights of Redemption. And we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. At pick number one, I don't think there's any surprise. We're going to go with Brees Hall. So Brees Hall goes to Philly Miracle Men at number one. And going to pick number two, we do have Knights of Redemption on the clock, and we are going with Drake London. The reason for this pick from Chris and No More is he said, I can see this pick going one of two ways. Knights of Redemption has glaring need at running back and wide receiver, also needs a QB2, but he's not going to pick one at 1-2. I see Drake London. I select Drake London. Besides Pitts, there won't be much competition for targets, and he'll likely finish as a top 15 receiver in his rookie year for that reason. I agree. I think Drake London is a good pick here for Knights Redemption. I personally think I would have maybe went with Kenneth Walker here, but it's a preference pick versus, they're both needs, running back, wide receiver. And either one is going to be the pick. Speaking of Kenneth Walker, at 103, Kenneth Walker did go here as well. This was also picked by Brandon, the architect. Brandon didn't really give me a reason for it, other than, this would fill out Philly Miracle Men's running room. So my analysis on it is Philly Miracle Men, they need running backs. And there's obviously no better pure runner than Walker in this draft. Walker will clearly take over Seattle at some point this season. I don't see Penny taking, not getting injured or being any actual threat to Walker here. Next up, we have Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams, in my opinion, is the best ranked wide receiver in this draft before he got injured. If he didn't get injured and he was healthy, I think he would have went to the Falcons or to somebody. He would have probably went as the number one. But the issue with Jameson Williams here is he's probably not going to play to at least week 6, maybe week 7, maybe not even to week 8 or 9. And then when he gets back, he does have Goff throwing the football. But this is Dynasty. This is not a redraft. This is not even our 5-keeper LOC league. So just 1 year of Goff versus somebody who might be a taken next year might be the pick here at 104. It's I think there's about 3 wide receivers who can get taken as the 1, 2, 3 in a specific order, maybe 4. Maybe London, Williams, Wilson, and Burks, depending on the way you order them, would be your top 4 wide receivers. And I think you can make a case for either one of them to go as the first wide receiver or the second wide receiver. Next up, we do have Optimus Prime on the deck. I have him going with Garrett Wilson here. Prime does need a wide receiver and a running back. The best running back on his roster, in my opinion, is James Robinson. The best wide receiver is Ja'Marr Chase. However, and I know the commission is probably going to be like, well, you take James Cook here. But to me, James Cook, there's 3 tiers of running back. Obviously, Brees Hall is in his own tier. Tier 2 is probably Kenneth Walker by himself. And there's probably about 3 running backs in tier 3. James Cook is probably the best one of tier 3, but honestly, just because of landing spot. If it wasn't a landing spot and he went to, one of the other places, to me, he's not worth taking at 105, maybe not even 106 or 107. To me, he 112 is probably where James Cook could go, even in Buffalo. So I went with Garrett Wilson here. Pairing him with Chase is a good 1-2 punch for Optimus Prime here. Next up, we do have Trayvon Burks going to likely losers. If Burks falls to 6 to likely losers, if I were him, I would be like the Detroit Lions and just try to run to the podium to make this pick, or in our case, just smash that draft button and take Trayvon Burks here. Don't overthink it. And then next up, we do have Chris and No More, who did pick number 2 for me. To me, this was a difficult pick for him. He does need a QB2, but I think it's too early to take Pickett. Because Pickett is not guaranteed to start, this year, or maybe not even, half the year or whatever. And Malik Willis, who I think is a better quarterback than Pickett, is not guaranteed to start. Let's be honest, ever, because he's in Tennessee. Tennessee could take a quarterback next year. So I kind of went with the safer option and taking Sky Moore, because if Jimmy G does get traded to a team that needs a starting quarterback, No More can always make that change. He could put Jimmy G in as a keeper. And then he is light on his, he doesn't have that quality depth at quarterbacks or running backs or wide receivers. Mike Evans is 28, but so is Derrick Henry. So came down to, do I take James Cook again based on what I just said previously? I don't take James Cook here. I take Sky Moore. I mean, he's probably number 1 wide receiver now in Kansas City. And, that's all you have to say here. Next up is Curly Lamborghini. Again, if I were picking him, I would not take James Cook here. But if you look at his depth versus running back versus wide receiver, it's night and day. His wide receiver room is pretty good. His running back room is trash. And that's the nice way to put it. So he is taking James Cook here 100%. We're just going to go ahead and move on. Next, we have Knights of Redemption back on the clock. He did take, Drake London at 102. And the question again is, do you take, the next tier of running backs? Do you take somebody else in the next tier? I probably wouldn't. Or would you go, pair somebody with London, Thomas, Higgins? And to me, the answer is simply yes. That's exactly what you do. I would go with the heir apparent for Michael Thomas and take Chris Olave, whatever his last name is, but I do apologize for butchering it. Next up, we do have the infamous, the Illuminati, aka Robert, who somehow left the Discord, but I know he's back in, so he is able to accept messages again. His quarterback room is horrible. He has Tom Brady and Big Ben. Currently, Tom Brady retired. Big Ben is retired still. Tom Brady came back, obviously. I don't know if I would take Pickett here, but I can make the case for him to pick Pickett, really. And honestly, that's the right choice for him. And I don't know. I can see him taking Pickett, and it might be the right choice. And we'll leave it as that. Next up, we do have Bare Naked Ladies picking at 111. Christian Watson, he did go to Green Bay. Green Bay needs to throw to somebody. And according to Green Bay, Christian Watson is the man for the job. I'm not sold on his skill set, but, he did go to there. And Bare Naked Ladies is up next again. So taking Christian Watson here is not a bad pick. And we're just going to move on. Next up at 1-2, we do have Bare Naked Ladies taking Jahan Dotson here. I think if I had to pick between the two, and if I didn't have back-to-back picks, Jahan Dotson would have probably been my pick at 111. But since you do have that back-to-back picks, you're pairing, Dotson here with Sutton and Watson. You're going to have that 1-2-3 dominant punch for the next 3 to 5 years, per se. So why not pick your wide receivers and just have that good 1-2-3 punch and worry about running backs later? Next up, we do have Zebras, and I'm going off the board here. So with Pickett gone, there are Trubisky, other people that could potentially fall in here, and I'm pretty sure I spelled Jameson wrong, but that's okay. So her wide receiver depth is not good for her running back room depth is not that good, but her 1-2-3 running backs was pretty shabby, or pretty good, I mean. And then her wide receiver depth is meh, but the stars are also great. She does need a quarterback. She doesn't pick again to 313. So that's then there's I think everybody else who needs a quarterback picks before her again. So either you take the best boom or bust well, not prospect, but player, or you take, or you're gonna have to take somebody like Mitch Trubisky, who maybe might be the starter. Um, I would go, Jameson Winston here as 113. As much as it might be painful to do it with a couple other guys on the board, that's the pick I would make. Next up at 114, we have Sabatica Spartans on the clock, and I have them taking Damian Pierce. Yes, could Spartans go somebody like Pickens here? Potentially, yes, but the running back room needs more players. And I think Pierce has an okay chance of starting at some point this year. He only has Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead above him in the depth chart, even if you would consider them. To me, it's a tie, and whoever does good in trading camp will get the number one spot. But I think, the veterans might get the chance early, but I think Pierce is definitely right there to take over for them. If not, so maybe by game 4, 5, 6, he's going to be leading the room. And next up, we do have Orange Crush at 115, taking George Pickens. To me, George Pickens might be the most talented wide receiver in the draft. If not, he's definitely number 2. It's really his off-field issues have led him to fall in the draft. It's definitely not his talent. And this is simply taking the best player available. And yeah, that's who I would definitely go with. And at pick 116, we do have Bare Naked Ladies back on the board. He did take Watson and Dotson. And I do have him taking, a tight end here. He did take 2 wide receivers earlier. He could have went running back here. But I'm not sold on Spiller. I don't like the landing spot for Spiller. And I don't know if there's another back worth this spot either. It really comes down to how much he loves either of the tight ends. So Dulcich, McBride, likely one of those guys, maybe even likely might be a huge stretch here. So he does have C-Mac, Akers, and Mitchell, and Sutton, Watson, and Dotson, and he does have his 2 second-year quarterbacks. It might be time to draft for versus need, and that is why I do have him going with McBride here. All right, guys, let me know what you think, and sounds good.